Hey everyone, I've done a lot of LEGO Star Wars rankings, whether that's top 10s or, talking about some of the best LEGO Star Wars sets, and I thought to myself, why not switch it up and look at some of the not so good LEGO Star Wars sets, because obviously not every LEGO set is good. So today I will be showing the worst LEGO set from every Star Wars movie and TV show. I will be going in chronological order, so starting with the Young Jedi Adventures TV show, and the set is the Crimson Firehawk, which released in 2024, and this is a 4+ set. So this show got two sets, both of them being 4+. As far as all 4+ sets overall, this is not a bad one. I do like some of the builds that come in here and the minifigures. I really love Nubs, but it's just not as good as the other 4+ set that released, which is the Jedi Temple. I think the build for the ship looks good, it kind of gets the shape and the overall look. This isn't the most exciting build, but I do understand that it is a 4+ set, and because it is, the set isn't going to be very complex and it's going to be very simple. But like I said, it's just not as good as the other set that released for the show. Now moving on to Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, the set for this movie is the Droid Fighter, which released in 1999. Now, even though it released all the way back then, it still does get the look of a Vulture droid. But also because it was released that long ago, it's not the best looking build, and it definitely is very simple. And there's really nothing else to this set other than the droid. There's no minifigures or even just any, battle droids included to just add that extra play. So overall, it's a bland set, and I feel like it lacks compared to other sets that I was looking for this movie. For Attack of the Clones, I chose the Homing Spider Droid Microfighter set. This set released in 2015 and also was released alongside the Republic Gunship Microfighter. This set comes with one B1 battle droid in that orange color, which I really like. The build I'm not the biggest fan of. I think it just looks really goofy and is not the best depiction of the Homing Spider Droid. I think the, head or ball in the middle is just really big compared to the legs. Now I get it is the Microfighter scale, so it's, it's going to be proportionally off a little bit, but, comparing to other Microfighters, and especially the one that released for this movie, I'm not the biggest fan of the way it looks. And Attack of the Clones definitely had a pretty solid set lineup, like the ATTE and the Republic Gunship. So ultimately, I chose this Microfighter just because it's not the best looking. Now for the Clone Wars, I chose the Assassin Droid Battle Pack, which released in 2009. I feel like this battle pack was just really unnecessary. Now there is another kind of not good battle pack for the Clone Wars, and that is the one that comes with 2 Phase 1 clone troopers plus Ki-Adi-Mundi and Barriss Offee. Now I know with that one, people criticize it for being a battle pack because you're essentially going to army build it, but you're getting 2 Jedi, so you're going to get a lot of Jedi. But even then, all 4 of those minifigures are pretty cool, all look great. This one, you're getting 5 assassin droids, and I feel like those droids aren't meant to be army built. I think the build looks good, and it's a pretty cool speeder, but I think this one is definitely was really unnecessary as a battle pack. Definitely include maybe an assassin droid in just another set or something, but I do definitely think it's a little bit worse than that other battle pack I mentioned, and I just think that this set just isn't really that exciting. The next movie is Star Wars: Revenge of the Sith. I chose the Darth Vader transformation set that released in 2005. The concept I like, and especially for 2005, I feel like the execution was there in terms of the play feature to have their transition from Anakin to Darth Vader, but I think overall the actual build just does not really look good. Aside from the play feature, there's really nothing else that this build offers. Obviously, being the transformation, the play feature is the main thing, but the more recent Darth Vader transformation had more minifigures and a better looking build. This one just doesn't really look good. There's not a lot of detail, and it's really just the play feature that's here. So this set is not really that exciting, and it's pretty simple. The Bad Batch had 2 sets released for it, and I chose the Justifier. The minifigure lineup is pretty solid, and I really do like the new Cad Bane. In terms of the ship, I think it is a really good build, and I also love the size. It is a pretty big ship. The Justifier overall is not a bad set. It's a good set in my opinion, but it just doesn't beat the other set that came out, which was the Bad Batch shuttle. I just liked the accessories, minifigures, and the overall set more. Next up is the Kenobi show. The set I chose is the Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Vader set, which released in 2022. This set is not really the greatest build. It almost just looks like a gray, bland, like detailed base plate almost. And because of that, it's just not really an exciting set. I do like some of the play features, and the minifigure selection is not bad. I obviously do like Darth Vader and Obi-Wan. I think the droid minifigure is good. Overall, I mean, compared to the Inquisitor Scythe, this is just not, that great of a set. And I definitely do think that they should have done the last fight at the end of the show and made it, like a dual set, but I just don't think that the build here is, anything great. Next is Solo: A Star Wars Story, and the set I chose is Moloch's Landspeeder in 2018. So Solo didn't have that great lineup of sets. It was pretty much a lot of speeders, and I chose this one because it's just kind of the most uninteresting in terms of the design. I'm not the biggest fan of it, and I think has a weaker minifigure selection compared to the other sets. The next show is Star Wars Rebels, and the set I chose is the ATDP Microfighter, which released in 2016. Star Wars Rebels had a pretty good set lineup and also had a few microfighters released as well, like the Ghost, which looks really good. This one, though, I just don't really like. I think this is one of the few microfighters where I'm like, it doesn't really look like the vehicle that it's based on. So I have a few criticisms for this, starting with the, yellow accents. I've looked at pictures of the ATDP from the show, and I don't really see anything yellow on them, and even the Playscale version had it, but it wasn't as prominent as it is here, so it kind of takes away from the look a little bit. And also the round bricks on each side of the head just looks very goofy and funny on this one. It's obviously better on the Playscale because it's a bigger scale, but here it just does not look that good. There were definitely other vehicles and ships that should have been made into a microfighter over this one. Moving on to Andor, the set is the Ambush on Ferrix, which released in 2022. When I had done my best LEGO Star Wars set for every movie and TV show, the newest U-Wing wasn't officially released, so I had chosen the Ambush on Ferrix. But now that the U-Wing is out, I think that the U-Wing is just a little bit better. I do like the minifigure selection more, and I think the build is it looks very good. Yes, it is downsized, but it still looks very good. Now with the Ambush on Ferrix, there are a few things that I think could have been better. It's still a really good set. I do like both builds, and I like the inclusion of a speeder bike, so it adds a lot of playability. I definitely do think that this set should have came with at least one more of the, like a security officers to fill out the ship rather than just one, and then you have to buy multiple of them just to get another minifigure. And secondly, I do wish that the ship was just a little bit bigger. It does still have very good interior space where you can fit multiple minifigures, but I just wish the ship was just a little bit bigger. But overall, still a solid set. The set for Star Wars Rogue One is the TIE Striker Microfighter, which released in 2017. Rogue One actually has one of the best set lineups, honestly, and even the microfighters are good, but the TIE Striker is just a little bit less than the other ones. I just don't really like it in microfighter scale because, the proportions do look a little bit off. Like, I would have wished the wings were a little bit longer compared to the, main body. I think the actual midsection is a good size, but longer wings just would have looked better, and it just kind of makes the build look compact. Now, starting the original trilogy with Star Wars A New Hope, I chose the Tatooine Battle Pack, which released in 2018. This is a set where you kind of have to go, why was this made? Or, was it necessary to make? This is a very weird battle pack, as battle packs are tended to, be army built. This is definitely one of the worst battle packs, getting an astromech droid, a Tusken Raider, and 2 Jawas. I think the battle pack build isn't anything exciting, it's meant to be kind of a miniature sand crawler. There's really just nothing exciting or interesting about this set, and I just don't think that it should have been a battle pack. Obviously, these minifigures and other sets are great and everything, but in the context of a battle pack, that's what makes this so bad. Next up is the Empire Strikes Back, where I chose the Twin Pod Cloud Car, which released in 2002. This is a set that I understand, it came out a while ago, so the build isn't going to be complex or anything like that, but I just don't really like the way it looks. I think there obviously have been better cloud cars in the future, and I just think, the different kind of colors like the brown and some of the dark bluish gray just kind of throw off the look overall, rather if it was like full red. I mean, even the cloud car itself isn't the most interesting or exciting vehicle in Star Wars or in this movie, so ultimately I think this is just not that great of a set. This is a vehicle that's definitely better when it's a part of another build rather than a set on its own. And finishing the original trilogy with Return of the Jedi, I chose the Imperial ATST, which released in 2001. This is another kind of cloud car example where this set was made a while ago, so it's not the best design, but even then, this one does look a little bit goofy and it is kind of funny to look at. It's obviously not the best looking build, but it does, kind of get the look of the ATST. Like, you could see this and be like, yeah, that's an ATST. But like the cloud car, having different colors just makes it look messy and odd. And overall, I just don't think it's a good set. The next TV show is The Mandalorian. The set is the Mando and Grogu's N1 Starfighter, which released in 2025. This is a 4+ set. The minifigure selection is solid, coming with the Mandalorian, Grogu, and astromech droid. I do kind of like the Darksaber mold, but I still wish, and I think it's just the better option, obviously, obviously, to have a full darksaber mold, including the hilt as well. I feel like this is kind of a just lazy way of doing it. Now, because this is a 4+ set, the builds aren't going to be anything too complex, but even then, I still do not like the look of the N1 Starfighter. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of 4+ sets, and obviously, I'm not 4 years old, but I can still appreciate a good 4+ set like the Jedi Temple from Young Jedi Adventures. I do like the concept and the way that's executed. Really, the only build that I think looks good and I like is the pram that Grogu uses. It's really the most detailed and kind of the most accurate. But I just don't really like the look of this N1 Starfighter, and definitely compared to some other Mandalorian sets, I just don't think that this is a good one. The next show is the Book of Boba Fett, where I chose the Boba Fett Starship Microfighter, which released in 2023. Starting with the Boba Fett minifigure, I just do not like how LEGO approached the newer Boba Fett, with the Mandalorian and his show where, he has a new recolor of his armor, but LEGO still has the old, light green, so it just does not match together and just looks very odd. I think the actual Slave one does not look bad as far as microfighters go. I definitely do not like the cockpit piece, but I get that there's really not a piece to use for this scale. I just don't like how it's open on either side. Overall, I think the build does look good. It does resemble the Slave one, but I just don't think it's better than the other two Book of Boba Fett sets. Moving on to the Ahsoka TV series, I chose the Death Trooper and Night Trooper Battle Pack, which released in 2025. Now, this battle pack has some excellent minifigures, but I think the build is pretty atrocious. With the Ahsoka TV show, there were a couple sets where I was kind of, bouncing back and being like, which one should I choose? Like the Ahsoka's T6 shuttle. Now, with that set, it's obviously got the whole backside with no detail, so that's always bad, and it's maybe not the right color, how it's supposed to be white and red, but still, I don't think it's a bad build, and I think the minifigure selection in that one is still really good. But with this one, the minifigures are good, but I just do not like the build at all. I think this is a pretty bad looking dropship, and I just do not like the design. It's way too blocky and not really detailed, and there have just been way better dropship builds and battle packs like the Rebel and Imperial battle pack that came out recently. But yeah, overall, I mean, it's not a bad battle pack because the minifigures are good, but I just do not like the build. And I think I just love the minifigure selection in every other set better than this one. The next show is the Skeleton Crew, but there is not a lot to say because it only had one set released, which was the Onyx Cinder, and it is a pretty good set. Now, starting with the sequel trilogy with The Force Awakens, the set is the Resistance X-Wing Starfighter, which released in 2021. This is a 4+ set and is just another not really good depiction of the vehicle that it's based on, but also I gotta reiterate that I understand it's a 4+ set, so the build isn't going to look all that great. I think the minifigure selection is good, coming with Poe Dameron and BB-8. Maybe, a First Order Stormtrooper definitely would have heightened the set just a little bit, but overall, I don't really like the X-Wing. I don't like the cockpit piece. It's the same with the Boba Fett Starship Microfighter, how it's just small and it's open on either side, and overall I just don't like the simple design. Moving on to The Last Jedi is the First Order ATST, which released in 2018. This is probably the worst LEGO Star Wars set in my opinion, and I've seen a lot of people agree with that as well because it's missing in the entire top part of the ATST. Now, I get the context of the scene because BB-8 controls it and it rips the head off, but not including that in this set just kind of makes it worthless and not really have any motivation to get it. LEGO could have easily included that headpiece for the ATST and then added the play feature of ripping it off like in the movie, but LEGO just decided not to add it entirely, and it just makes the build look not good, and like I said, not a reason to get it because you're not getting the full ATST. The minifigure selection is alright. I feel like Captain Phasma is really the most interesting and great minifigure in here. So overall, this is a set where you're missing a pretty important chunk of a build that you paid for. And the last sequel movie is Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. The set I chose is the Knights of Ren transport ship, which released in 2020. This is another one that's probably one of the worst LEGO Star Wars sets. It's just a very disappointing build and minifigure selection. First off, this is the Knights of Ren transport, so I would have liked at least majority, if not all, of the Knights of Ren, but I understand that some came in another set. And then the biggest disappointment is the build. This is a transport after all, yet it has zero interior space to fit any of the minifigures. There's just a space on top to place a minifigure on the outside. You can't make a transport transport build and not have any space for the minifigures to fit. It's also a pretty small build considering that it is a transport that's supposed to fit all of the Knights of Ren. I think the overall look and design of the ship isn't anything exciting as well, and definitely the lack of interior space is just a big disappointment. And now the last TV show is Star Wars Resistance, and the set I chose is the Black Ace TIE Interceptor, which released in 2019. There were only 2 sets to release for this, but I think the Major Von Rex TIE Fighter is just way better than this one. Minifigure selection is alright, I feel like Poe Dameron is definitely the, highlight of the minifigures. And the build itself is definitely an interesting looking starfighter, but it just doesn't look exciting or as good as that black and red TIE Fighter. So overall, it's an alright set. That has concluded the list of the worst LEGO Star Wars set for every Star Wars movie and TV show. This was definitely a fun and interesting video to make because I was always looking at, the best LEGO Star Wars sets in my rankings and doing, top 10. So it was fun to kind of switch it up and look at some of the worst LEGO Star Wars sets. Now, not every set on this list was, bad. There were some pretty good sets, but they were at a disadvantage because the show only had 2 sets. Definitely let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with anything. I always like hearing what you have to say. Definitely lightsaber slash that like button and hit subscribe with the post notifications on so you know when I upload. I hope you all have a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace.